Okay, welcome everyone. First things first, we're gonna have our interpreters giving their announcement. We're gonna have live interpretation today. So if you need it, please come talk to them.
係大家好，我係 Anna，我係你哋嘅廣東話翻譯。如果你需要廣東話翻譯嘅時候咧，咁你揾我哋協助你。Hi, my name is Anna. I'm here to provide Cantonese interpretation. If you need help, come and we're here to support. Thank you.
你哋好，我係 Anita，我係今日嘅國語翻譯。Hello everyone, my name is Anita. I'm the Mandarin interpreter today. So come find us for help at the table over there. Thank you.
नमस्ते सबैजनालाई म नेपाली इन्टरप्रेटर हुँ यदि तपाईहरुलाई नेपाली भाषाको भाषान्तरण चाहिएको खण्डमा म उपलब्ध हुनेछु मेरो अर्को सहकर्मी साथी पनि हुनुहुन्छ त्यहाँ टेबलमा सम्पर्क गर्नु होला Good evening everybody my name is Dinesh I'm Nepali interpreter and then if you need any interpretation for Nepali please contact us in the table so my colleague is also there thank you
Boa noite, meu nome é Fabiola. Se você precisa de tradução para português, por favor, procure a gente ali na mesa atrás, que a gente tem um aparelhinho para dar para você. Good afternoon. My name is Fabiola. I'm the Portuguese interpreter. If you need any assistance, if you need translation or interpretation, please find us on the table on the back.
Bonsoir tout le monde, nom c'est Isabelle, je suis interprète créole haïtien. Si nous avons besoin d'interprétation en créole haïtien, s'il vous plaît, venez nous derrière dans la table. Good evening everyone, my name is Isabelle, I'm a Haitian Creole interpreter. If you'd like to listen to the meeting in Haitian Creole, please come find us in the back. Thank you.
Buenas noches, mi nombre es Camila. Vamos a estar interpretando español. Si necesitan interpretación, por favor, ir a la mesa de atrás. Hi, my name is Camila. If you need Spanish interpretation, please go to the back. Thank you.
Thank you, interpreters. In case you are wondering, we're gonna have people from City TV and Cambridge Somerville Independent recording. And with that said, I want to say first, thank you all for your patience here. We know nasty weather can always be a little challenging, so thanks for bearing with us. Thank you for being here. We're gonna get started now. Can you move to the next slide, please? So this is a quick overview of how we're going to run the show today. We're going to first hear from Superintendent Carmona and then from Mayor Wilson. Then we're going to have our project architects, Perkins Eastman, presenting some updates about the project, and then we're going to have some time for face-to-face Q&A. After that, we're gonna be around here, so you can come to the tables here in the back. We're gonna have some boards, and you can provide your feedback about this project. So with that said,
thank you, everyone. Great to see some familiar faces tonight, and also thank you for being here tonight, knowing that the weather out there is very difficult to drive. Hopefully I won't get towed, so the mayor probably will hopefully bail me out. But I just wanted to offer this space for you to, this is mainly for you to ask questions, for you to have a deeper understanding of what we're trying to do. And I want to get right into it because the meat of the conversation is going to come from our team, Perkins Eastman. They are the ones who have a deeper knowledge of what the configurations are looking like. So with that, I'm just going to welcome the mayor to get right into it. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Superintendent Carmona. Thank you all for being here. It's a pleasure to be here with you. You're here because you care. This is, it's about more than buildings, it's about our kids. Understandably, that brings out strong emotions. I get it. Whether you're here because you want a new school to be built ASAP, because you're concerned about changes to something that you love, or whether you're just looking to ensure that we invest in our students the best way we can, or Could be a combination of those. I hope you come away from this meeting knowing that between me, the superintendent, the school committee, the city council, city and SPS staff, our architects, project managers, transportation analysts, and everyone else, you have a committed, driven team with the expertise that's needed to deliver on a project like this. The path forward is clear. We've been very clear. We agree with the CAG recommendation, and that's to maximize the state investment by building a school that serves 900 plus students at 115 Sycamore, that provides the district and the school committee with the flexibility to deliver the best options for all of our students. If you disagree with an aspect of this decision, please continue to engage. There's so much left to be determined here. Just because you did, no matter how big the decisions that you might disagree with, that doesn't mean that we want you to disengage and walk away. The visioning process, the determination of what this new school will look like, it will be so much better if it has your input on that. There's still so much to be determined. We chose Perkins Eastman because they have a track record that shows they know how to make a large school feel small. They have experience in other communities. There have been visits to some of those by the team that's worked on this, and they're ready to adopt the best approaches to bring that to Somerville. We're early in the design process here. We've already been seeing opportunities that this building can provide tailored experiences for students in different grades, different ages, dedicated spaces for really diverse learning needs, greater opportunities for community programming, and a lot more. The shape that building will take and what it looks like is still to be determined. That's why we want extensive input from the educators and the community. It's going to be deliberated on and ultimately supported by the school committee, because our children and our educators deserve the best school possible. So I'm committed to leading us through this process, ensuring that your voice is heard on what shape that building takes, and that our community's priorities and values are embedded throughout this new school. So again, it's critical that no matter where you stand on any of the decisions, that you continue to engage. So thank you for your continued partnership, and now I'll turn it over to our team at Perkins Eastman. Thanks.
Go to the next slide. Who's running the show? Oh, there you are. Thanks. Not gonna stay. Bear with me. Perfect. Perfect. Thank you. All right, great. So thank you all for being here tonight. My name is Lisa Pecora, and I'm here with Bob Bell, Don Guriello, and also Dan Ahrens. We are all architects from Perkins Eastman. So together, we're going to share with you some of the work that we've done over the past few months, and kind of talk about where we're next steps ahead. So I'm going to start with just sharing the project schedule with you. So you can go to the next one, perfect. So this is a big picture look at the overall project schedule from feasibility study to project completion. We're currently in the feasibility phase. It's a 10-month process that will complete in August. Then we're going to move right into schematic design, where we're going to develop the project budget and then make a submission to the Massachusetts School Building Authority, which you're going to hear tonight is going to be referred to as the MSBA. After the MSBA approves the project, the proposed budget will go to City Council for review and approval, and then onto the ballot for debt exclusion. Once the community approves the project, we can begin design development phase of the project, and we can also look at preparing early bid documents for the abatement and demolition of 115 Sycamore Street. We'll make a submission of our design development drawings along with the cost estimate to the MSBA. This will ensure the state that we're staying on budget. These drawings are going to have a little bit more detail. We'll get input from the users, from city departments, as we continue to develop the design for the building. And then next phase would be the construction documents, where we would submit a 60% and a 90% CD set to the MSBA, along with the cost estimate, also to make sure that we're maintaining the budget as we move through the design process. If this project, it could go out to bid in the fall of 2028, depending on how all the pieces fall together, and a contract could be signed with a contractor maybe at the start of 2029. The construction process would be roughly about 2 years, which the earliest you would look at moving into the school would be January or February of 2031. So the next slide is just an overall look at the current work plan from feasibility through schematic design. We basically have 3 submissions to the MSBA. The first is the preliminary design program, which is scheduled to be submitted at the end of this month. The next phase is the preferred schematic report, where we'll submit the preferred option to the MSBA for review and approval at their October board meeting. And then we'll move into schematic design, where we establish the budget, and we would make a submission to the MSBA in February for their April board meeting. So the next slide just shows you a little bit more in detail of what's inside of these submissions. So the preliminary design phase basically is we start by doing an existing building assessment. We look at alternate sites. We'll work with the educational leadership team to develop the educational vision and goals. The school district then develops the educational program, and the ed program provides our team with the details that we need to develop the space needs for the new school project. We'll also started to begin to develop some preliminary options, which we'll share with you tonight as well. The preferred schematic report is the refinement of some of these more select options, in which we'll start to develop the building systems, look at sustainability options, and study the building massing and materials. When we submit this final report to the state, we'll send them a selected option. The selected option would then be further developed in the schematic design phase, where we start to evolve the exterior and interior design and develop the final project budget. So the next slide. So community engagement is very important to the development of the design. We have started to work with the city communication team and have drafted a list of some community engagement events. A couple of these events have already taken place. The mayor kicked off some coffee hours with the Winter Hill and Brown community. Last weekend, we had a walk and talk outside of 115 Sycamore Street. Had some great outcome of people that came out on a very beautiful day. We did 2 tours, one at 10, one at 11 o'clock, and got a really some great feedback from the community. Tonight's community forum will be followed by additional community forums in the future as we start to gather more information and start to develop the project. There are a few workshops that you'll see on the schedule that are listed later on in the spring, where we're going to talk about sustainability and community use for the new school building. And then our goal really is just to continue to communicate and meet with the community throughout this process, to listen to your feedback, and which will help us to develop the design for the new school. So we ask that everyone please visit the project website to keep informed, ask questions, and look for events that are going to be coming up in the future. So with that, I'm going to hand it over to Bob.
Thank you, Lisa. And good evening, everyone. Thank you for coming. I'm going to share with you a little bit of what's the details that are in what you just saw as the overall schedule, where we've been, some of the conversations that have occurred, and how the goals and some of the questions are shaping the project. So this is just a snapshot of some key things that we've been up to. In this very first phase, it's important that we establish a vision and goals for the project. And that's done in a number of ways. We started with Shadow Day, where we visited both schools, Winter Hill and the Brown School, and spent some time to understand and get to know what happens within the school and the school day. We also conducted school tours to see some newer facilities that are very forward-thinking with the educational leadership team and some examples of good design. But in the center here at the heart was a visioning process. It was really a kickoff that started with 60 members from the community, mostly educators, teachers, parents, business leaders, city department representatives. And the idea was to really just sort of brainstorm and get the ball rolling on what the future for this new school might look like and what the priorities are. As I think the mayor said, as we go through the process with you and with community and in additional meetings, this will continue to shape the vision for the new school. And then finally, on the far right, we've had programming workshops, and this is really just to get into the details of the exact spaces that are needed in the quantity of spaces. So this has all been going on in the background. Let me see if I can advance. So this is a lot on one page, but I just wanted to share with you on the far left highlights that came out of the visioning process. The priorities were to create a scaled, age-appropriate school that really has kind of zones or experiences that are more geared towards early childhood, elementary, and middle. So that's one way to start to break down the scale of the school. It's also important that this new design support the whole child. So with wellness and sensory integrated into it, spaces and supports for all children. Equity and inclusion also came up, was very important to make sure that programs are visible, valued, and integrated into the design. And with any modern school facility, flexibility, adaptability, and the fostering of collaboration is also very important. And that means a variety of spaces, varied spaces within the school. The school as a community hub is paramount, and that's very much the fabric of Somerville. And that's to make sure that the spaces provided within support and provide additional opportunities for the greater community inside as well as out. And also, lastly, to foster belonging and connection through the adjacencies and the placement of the spaces and program. So those are the highlights on the far left. The three with the arrow, I'm going to get into a little bit more detail. There have been some questions at some other community meetings about what that might look like, so I'll show some examples. On the far right is what we call a bubble diagram or an organizational diagram. And what you're seeing at the center, kind of the yellow and light colored spaces, are community spaces, community and shared spaces within the school, with the administration up front, but separate entries for different age groups. In the left, you can see kind of an experiential zone for the school that is more of the elementary grades. And of course, the science and tech spaces weave themselves in there. And on the upper portion, you can see more of the middle grades in that organization. Within each one of these blue circles, which would be a grade level, the scale of the school is intended to be broken down further into small learning neighborhoods with integrated special needs spaces, newcomer academy spaces, and other supports. So the scale is kind of at a macro size to break down the circulation and kind of the feel of the school, but then also even within each cluster. This is an example. This is a school in Cambridge, the Tobin Vassal School, and what you can see here are two separate schools within the school. They actually have separate entries, similar in that it has shared common and community space in the middle, but a very different wing, schools within a school in this case, for a lower grades and an upper grades, and that's done kind of horizontally. This is another example of a school in Dennis, Yarmouth, Massachusetts. And here, this was 2 completely distinct schools with separate administrations, and that zoning happened vertically. So the lower floor was for grades 4 and 5, and the second floor was for grades 6 and 7. So the 6 and 7 students, as they entered, would have a main stair to ascend up to their kind of their school within the school. This is an example from Hopkinton, Massachusetts, of a neighborhood cluster. So here, the school was set up with 3 distinct wings. They could be different grade levels. It was actually set up so that the school could be organized by floor or by wing. And those are the types of flexibilities that we would hope to build into this school, so you're not locked into one organizational model, but it can work in different ways. But you can see within each wing, there's a cluster of classrooms with integrated special education. In Somerville's case, also newcomer academy classrooms. They have some small group space as well as some collaboration space, so it really creates kind of a community within the scaled community. So we know that the small scale really matters to make children feel at home and comfortable. As we look through the grade level changes from pre-K to 8, developmentally, there are such great differences in the scale and the types of spaces that foster learning at the early ages through discovery and play, and as students move along through more collaboration and working together. It's a good reason to organize the school differently so that we can develop it age-specific. These are just some examples from the outside. These are all 3 to 5 story school buildings broken up in different ways with attempts to scale them down. Some of them are large high schools, but the idea is to both kind of accommodate at the outside of the building a little bit of scale, but really focus on the experience entering the school and kind of the students' daily life within the school as a scaled experience. So I'll get into, aside from scale, we wanted to cover some of the sensory and what we consider universal design approach, designing for cognitive, different cognitive abilities, as well as physical, social, emotional, is really just good design. So it's designed for all. So when we look on the left-hand side, these are 15 strategies to create a school well-designed for neurodiversity and for diverse learners. It really fits into these 5 kind of buckets on the right-hand side, which is, you could understand creating a very steady and predictable environment, easing transitions and movement throughout the school. There are studies that show that curves and gentle sweeps or just widening at intersections can be a mental relief rather than sharp angles or sort of sudden turns. We know that diversity of space and providing choice within even a large room like this, to have a choice to have a quieter space is really important. But too much choice can be overwhelming, so there's a balance there. We also know we need to support the sensory sensitivities. Acoustics is probably the #1 sensitivity that is in common with those on the autism spectrum, but quality lighting, consistent lighting, acoustics, thermal comfort, all very important. And lastly, tactile surfaces and good orientation, knowing where you are in space, in place, in time. Touch mapping for some students is very important to know where they are in a physical environment. So this is an example from Easton, Massachusetts. It's just one snapshot of a room. This happens to be a cafeteria, which is the cafetorium. It's an early childhood school, so instead of a main stair, it has a main ramp, and that's great for children, small little legs, but also for the elderly and for people with limited mobility. Within this space, it's a large cafeteria, but there's a quieter cafeteria. And the nice thing about that is it's still connected, it's part of the space, but it's a quieter zone. It turns out that that's also multi-purpose use throughout the day, and for the community, they have teaching kitchens and adult education in a space like that, so it can really hit on all cylinders. Focusing on the acoustics, again, is really important. If you see in the upper right, there's a little window. that's a respite space. So a student that may want to participate in a school-wide gathering, but is overwhelmed by being in the room, can view and hear from a remote location and still be part of the action. This is a closer look at it and some examples of the touch mapping, tactile surfaces. In schools, we've also incorporated signage that is dyslexia friendly. So it's weighted at the bottom, so it's kind of a little bit more readable for all. And then, of course, purpose-built spaces. The wonderful thing about a new school is it's not a compromise. Everything is being built very purposeful, thinking about flexibility, thinking about the future, and the accommodations that all children need. And finally, I'll get to community space. This has been really exciting. Every meeting we have new ideas coming up about how we can make this really a community-friendly and kind of complementary facility and campus. So this is an example in Newton. You probably can't tell, but there's a lot of connectivity here. So the main lobby, there's an after-school program just off to the right. Straight ahead is the cafeteria and performance space. Further down that corridor, there are music rooms that back up to the stage, and then a gymnasium that can be opened up separately or independently for community use. So there's layers of shared and community spaces that are in this space. This is a look at the cafetorium in that space. So when you think of cafeteria and a stage, it's not probably what you're thinking of. These are really acoustically well-designed spaces for performance. Whenever we can, creating connections to outside to, again, have orientation, but bring those biophilic qualities in that have a calming effect are really important. Even a gymnasium space, large space, but we see that there's a need for alternative spaces within the gymnasium. It might just be a walking loop for students or children that don't want to participate in the group activities, or adaptive PE and other things that can feed into the same space. And of course, there's a variety of outdoor spaces, whether it's outdoor learning labs, outdoor classrooms, sensory gardens, performing spaces. This is an example, again, from Dennis Yarmouth, of a stage that opens inside to the performance space, but outside, so there can be outdoor performances and spaces. I don't think we have wetlands on the site, but that's always an opportunity for outdoor learning. There certainly can be butterfly gardens and pollinator gardens and many things. So with that, I'll let Dawn come up and walk us through some of the plans that we have been focusing on. Oh, traffic, sorry. Our traffic engineer could not make it tonight because of the weather, traveling from a far distance. I didn't even think that was a joke, but yeah, it should have been planned. But we will walk through a little bit. He will be at future meetings, and I know this is a really important topic for all.
Super. Now I've got control. All right. So some of the analysis that our traffic consultant has started to work on, just to get a better understanding of the city, the community, and the site at 115 Sycamore Street. This is just an analysis showing the roadways in red are the heavier traveled roads. Ones in yellows are the lightly traveled roads. The neighborhood at 115 Sycamore Street and 201 Willow Street is divided by the train track, which is shown in purple, but there's multiple overpasses of streets running kind of in the north-south direction that still keep the neighborhoods connected. And then the blue line is really just illustrating the community path that connects the neighborhood and the city. These are just some images of our work ahead. There's a lot of departments that we'll be working with throughout this process to make sure that we understand all of the policies and requirements as we develop the new design. So, jumping ahead here. So this is an analysis that we actually were looking at on the city website, just showing how the evolution of where the city would like to bring the bicycle network. Once again, something that we want to understand and be a part of as we start to make these connections into the new school. And as well, same thing with the city's plan for roadway improvements, making sure that we understand the work that the city's already put into some of these studies and work with them on the new project. This is a past study that was done on the 20-minute walk shed, which is about a half a mile around 115 Sycamore Street and 201 Willow Street. What some of these studies showed was that students at 201 Willow Street, about 50% of them are within that 20-minute walk shed, and a little less than 50% are outside of it. Whereas at 115 Sycamore Street, a majority of the students that were going to school there were well outside of that 15-20-minute walk shed. And this here is just an analysis of some of our work as we start to look at 115 Sycamore Street. Trying to understand areas that could be potential drop-off pickup areas on Sycamore Street, Evergreens Ave, and possibly a portion of Thurston Street, but really trying to stay away from that, from the more busier street on Medford. But as we start to evolve the design, we'll start to learn a little bit more and understand where these drop-off pickup areas will work out best. But just overall, just want to let everybody know, we are very early in the process, and this is a collaborative effort between all of us. At our walk and talk last weekend, we heard a lot of great feedback from the abutters, from the people that had students in that school previously before it closed, and that feedback really helps us understand the issues so that we can continue to work together and come up with the best resolution for the new school design. And with that, I'm going to hand it over to Dawn to talk about the preliminary plan options.
Thank you, Lisa. Again, my name is Dawn. I'm one of the designers at Perkins Eastman. What we're going to highlight tonight are just a couple options of focus. The Mass School Building Authority process requires a wide breadth of options and variety of test fits. What we're showing tonight are sort of the ones that we're focusing on. I'll share some commonalities about them, just so that I don't have to say it during every option. There are three, and they all sort of build on each other. They will all meet the vision and goals that Bob described. So every design will meet those. They all reflect the 925 enrollment that the mayor mentioned earlier. They are all on the 115 Sycamore site. They'll all be universally designed, as Bob mentioned, and also include indoor and outdoor community spaces for the neighborhood and community use. We'll highlight that in each of them. They'll all include integrated special ed, and they're all going to create those small communities that Bob mentioned that will give us the opportunity in the pre-K to 8 enrollment grades to provide a unified but distinct experience for each of those different grade areas that Bob mentioned, the early childhood education, the lower, and the middle. So with that, I will get into the options. So first is 2B, and like I said, there are others, so that's why the numbering's a little off. What this is a variety of what we did in our interview when we were trying to win this project. And what we have is a perfect solar orientation for all of the core academic spaces. So on the north side, you can see the learning neighborhoods, the vertical block, it's 5 stories. that it's basically 2 grades per story in this particular option. What that does is has a east-west axis that provides north and south daylight and solar exposure. When we are planning buildings as best we can, that is what we try to provide. So that's where we focused here with sort of a terracing of the community spaces that heads down Sycamore towards Medford Street. So we've got the there's at-grade outdoor space, and then also some rooftop space that's terraced over those community spaces. So there are 3 entry points. In all 3 options, the main entry is at Sycamore and that's Thurston, right? No, Evergreen, I'm sorry. Thurston's on the other side. Evergreen and Sycamore, and it's on the north side. In this particular case, there's an outdoor plaza that invites the students and public in, and we've got a event entry, like a community entry for the gymnasium and cafeteria off of Medford, and then a special dedicated pre-K entry, and that happens in all of them. It just moves depending on where those classrooms are. So here, like I mentioned, ideal orientation. In all of these, I will say the community spaces, they coordinate with Bob's, the color scheme on his bubble diagram. So the yellow's the community, blue is academic, the red is administration, and the greens are sort of music, art, shared student spaces. So in this case, we have, like I said, 2 grade structures per floor, and then the community spaces sort of feed out to Medford. All of them have shared collaboration spaces within the small neighborhoods that Bob mentioned in some of the precedents that he showed, and you can see those, they sort of land in the middle of some of these academic neighborhoods. And then as you go up, it becomes more academic, less community space. So those are accessible, the community spaces from either at grade or off the main entry. The only exception being the media center, which we like to place on the academic wings for direct access for all students. Option 3B, what we heard, the feedback that we heard from the school building committee is that they would like the mass of the building to be closer to Medford, that the majority of the academic wing be where sort of the most of the community access and traffic off of Medford Street, and sort of protect the multi-use field that would be replaced in kind along Thurston and Evergreen. And what that did was allowed us to consolidate rooftop play/learning, outdoor space. I should go back and say, I think everyone knows this site is very tight. So we did do our best to try to create not only at-grade outdoor space, but also protected and for school use, mostly the rooftop green space. So what this doesn't do is provide that ideal solar orientation for the learning, the core learning spaces. So as you can see, it's kind of north-south facing, and that gives harsher east-west light, which would need to be controlled with, facade. It's possible. It's just it's not typically where we start. But given the feedback, this was the study. And again, these are sort of test fits. So we don't get into doors and breaking down suites. These are just making sure that the general program meets the needs. So in this case, again, a lot of the community spaces, they're directly adjacent to the multi-purpose field that's being replaced on Thurston and Evergreen. The main entry is at the 2nd level. It is on all of them. And you can see there's 2 academic wings, 2 grades, I'm sorry. What the other downside of this is that one grade has to walk through the other neighborhood, which could be disruptive. If you have 20 some odd 3rd graders trying to get to their classrooms, traveling through a 2nd grade neighborhood, it could become disruptive. So this long linear bar isn't as ideal as the sort of shorter wings that the previous option had. All of them have dedicated pre-K play, I should mention, and that would be where the entry point would be. So in this case, there's an entry point here for K and pre-K that allows them a distinct entry way to be dropped off by parents. And they all have that special play. So here we've got the multi-use, and then the rooftop above the community spaces. And the media center would have direct access in this particular option. I should also mention they all have maze garden. We learned that that was a really critical piece of the project, and that all of them will incorporate that in some manner. So important to note that as well. The last option, like I mentioned, there were three. This is option 4, is a hybrid, kind of a mashup of the first two. So what we tried to do here was take the good out of the first option I showed you, 2B, and build on some of that with, we still have some of the north-south axes, given east-west orientation to those learning spaces, but then we also created a neighborhood to the north that does have that ideal north-south daylight coming into the core learning spaces. What this also allowed us to do was keep the multi-purpose field in its, not keep it, but replace in kind, so it's the same size as what's there. And then also creatively over the cafeteria, we were able to provide at grade, because the grade slopes down along Evergreen. At the entry point, you can access this above rooftop area over the cafeteria. So you have sort of a 2-tiered play. The multi-purpose field down at the Thurston level, but then also a rooftop, which would be protected and have security around the edge of it. But that allows the entry point to have direct access for the community on the weekends to go and use that. It also has the dedicated pre-K play off of Medford, like the previous one did, with an entry point there. It's not indicated with an arrow, but it would be their direct entry point. And then a little bit of rooftop in other areas. So the pre-K play, I mentioned it had its own dedicated play area and entry point, and those classrooms are on their own lowest level. As we go up, first and second are split in this particular option because of how much community space there is. So you have the cafeteria, the gymnasium, all of those have direct access out to the outdoor play and outdoor areas. And then the music and art happen to be on that wing. And there's a rooftop play for the first graders right above the pre-K. I'll go back to the massing real quick. You can see that here. We have a bit of a sawtooth here, and that's intentional. We're trying to, along the east-west daylit spaces, we're trying to provide southern windows so that we can control the light, and then also just have view windows out east-west that are small and protected to prevent that harsh glare in the afternoon there. The main entry, always off of this intersection. The main office, and like I said, here's that play area that you can access right off of the corner at Sycamore, or you can walk down Evergreen and get to the multi-use field. As we travel up, what's nice here is we're exploring a couple different ways of having those experiences, in that we could stack 3, 4, 5. So the early elementary, I'm sorry, not early, the lower elementary, and then go 6, 7, 8 and have the middle experience occur in its own. Or we could do 2 per floor. So we're still exploring that, having lots of discussion about the best way to lay it out, but we think it would work either way and still provide those distinct wings that students will not have to travel through in order to get to their classrooms. So this is just an overview of the 3 that we talked about. I will say all of them are on boards in the corner. They have the floor plans and the massing. And we also have a chart with Post-it notes. And we want to encourage you. And there's also Mentimeter, a scan, a QR that you can scan and provide feedback. But the hope is that as we're breaking out, if you have likes, dislikes, suggestions, things that you want to give feedback on, that we encourage you to do it either over there directly to us or through Mentimeter. So with that, I will turn it over to you to close out.
Thank you. Thank you, Lisa, Bob, and Don, for all of the details you just provided us with. We're now going to open the floor for questions. We're going to have until 7:15 for you to ask your questions out loud. We're going to have the mayor, the city team, and the project architects stick around so they can answer your questions. We're going to ask you to raise your hands. We're going to have some mics so you can ask your questions out loud and so everyone in the room can hear you as well as the people who are joining our live stream. So, any questions?
Hello, this is Ewan of the Somerville Times. I was just wondering, what is the predicted earliest date of at least beginning construction on this school?
Great. So I believe the question is what the earliest date was that construction would begin or could begin. It really all depends on the debt exclusion vote. It is possible to do the early bid package for abatement and demolition in the fall of 2027 and have construction documents ready to go out to bid later in the fall and 2028, the following year, which would be a possible construction start at the start of 2029.
Hi, my name is Ksenia. I'd like to start saying that I think the communities of the Winter Hill and of the Brown want this new school to be built as soon as possible. So I want to make sure that everyone knows that. But I do want to say that for the Brown School community, the news that apparently the CAG recommendation means that we're closing the Brown has been a shock, and also it is in direct contradiction with what the CAG recommendation has been with regards to the decision whether Brown School should close or not. I'd like to remind everyone of that fact, and I also would like to say that while maybe the architects haven't been here long, the city has been here for 3 years almost, and I mean, before that as well. The Winter Hill closed in June of 2023, and it is 2026. So I think that the fact that we don't know what is the new redistricting, how am I supposed to get my child across town? Are you suggesting I will be biking or driving when we are trying to be, and I will ask the same question I asked at the first meeting in this building, which is, did we just give up on the idea of neighborhood schools? Because sounds like we are, and we're just pretending that we are not. So I'd like to know also what is that vision for the new school, because according to the timeline, it should exist. This educational programming and educational vision. I see the visions of the building. I'm not seeing the educational vision. I'm not seeing how Brown and Winter Hill are going to be combined. What is the impact? And I'd like to see that.
Should just leave this down. It's going to be a long night of moving up and down. No, I appreciate that. I'm here to speak to the CAG part of it. Having read the CAG recommendation, I didn't sense confusion in there. I thought that the folks who served their community by serving on we say CAG, Construction Advisory Group, trying to not use acronyms here, understood what they were being asked to do. There was dissent. It was not a unanimous decision. A supermajority did vote to support the larger school model there. There was dissent from folks who did not want to see that be, we need to acknowledge that it was not a unanimous decision. In the end, I agree with the CAG recommendation, and that's why we're proceeding with the large school at 115 Sycamore. Dr. Carmona is here to discuss the education. Oh, can we acknowledge Counselor at Large Kristen Strezzo is here. We also have Counselor at Large John Link. Ward 6 Counselor and City Council President Lance Davis is here. And we have Counselor at Large Ben Wheeler. And from the school committee, we have Ward 2 School Committee member Liz Eldridge and Ward 3 School Committee member Michelle Lippens. Do we miss anyone else here? Ward 7 School Committee member Leron Bitton. Yeah. Can Dr. Carmona address the?
Dr. Carmona, because I heard that disconnect of the 900 students and the CAG. Agree with that? And as a member of the CAG, I can say that definitely was not the case, and definitely encourage anyone that did not yet see the last video of the CAG meeting. I'm not on the. Sorry, Superintendent. Would you like to begin? Can I just?
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. So, question about the educational programming or educational program. So we currently are trying to work on what it means to combine two schools. That's the ask, is looking at how do we make sure we create a sense of smallness, a sense of small communities, neighborhood communities. So currently we're working on the idea of a pre-K through 3 and a 4 to 6 and a 7 to 8 cluster. So we're thinking about making sure that it doesn't lose the sense of a smallness and community. Within each of those neighborhoods, if you will, creating a space in which services are provided embedded in this space. So students, if they need to be out of the room, they don't have to go to a different location, but they have spaces that break off of the main area. So that is in terms of the configuration as well as the instructional design. The educational program is actually a robust document. It's a 78-page document. We're still finalizing it. But the idea is that every component of that program, what we teach in math, what we teach in literacy, what is the schedule, what is the vision for professional development, we're describing the current vision and also embedding on that what is possible for this ideal location for students to learn. So one thing I can say is that we are borrowing concepts from the innovation charter that is embedded within the Winter Hill School, which is the idea of being able to create a space that is flexible, the idea of creating a space in which we also bring science into it and STEM, in which theater is part of the offerings that we have, as well as making sure that as much as we can create an co-teaching model of instruction that can be permeate throughout the building. I know that we currently are working with the district on an exploration around what does our middle grade experience looks like, and we're trying to lean on that one as well to make sure that that experience is separate from the other grade levels. So I know that you were asking a specific question about how does the Brown specifically show up in that, and I think my ask was basically to unify those two schools and to keep some of the things that I heard was valuable, which was making sure that we keep a sense of smallness of neighborhood and also that is embedded in some creative learning that we can provide for now and the future years to come. I'm
up next.
Okay. So go ahead, what's your question?
Oh, thank you.
Thank you, Superintendent. Sunny, I didn't catch the question on the CAG.
Oh. Did the CAG recommend closing the Brown to combine it with Winter Hill?
So your
The CAG said 7 people in the CAG out of 13. This is a majority.
Correct.
Said this should be a school committee decision.
Correct.
Only 3 people recommended closing the Brown, and 3 people were against.
Correct. So what you're asking is if that the CAG recommendation was unanimous to close the Brown. And I was a member of the CAG, and no, absolutely not. And the decision was originally to be like an upvote, downvote, or that's what the city at the time last year presented that it should be. And members of the CAG, including me, requested that decisions would be individual and not that it wasn't just a simple up or down vote on closing the Brown. And secondary, and I did not agree to that, and
there were quite a few members as well that didn't. It was not a unanimous. Another thing, the 900 student decision that the CAG did not agree on that. And also, we weren't ever provided a number of what would be adequate, even in the last meeting, of how many students of a recommendation would be suitable. That was not an agreement as well. And I'll make that clear. The last meeting is still visible, and you can watch that. And yes, members of the CAG brought up the fact that we're not comfortable without a school committee decision on this, and asked the school committee to weigh in on this as well, and did not feel like there were specific answers at that last meeting as well on that. So that was the decision. Did I answer that? Yeah, so what are we doing? So, and so Ksenia said, so what are we doing?
Good news on that front. I decided we are going to have the school committee weigh in on that, and that's what's happening right now. School committee received a presentation last night. It was the first, are we counting that the first read? I don't know. It's the space summary was presented last night. The educational program is being presented on Monday. Then there will be an opportunity for the school committee to discuss those two things. The more consequential vote, I think, would come in June, when there's basically an approval of the, I'm going to get my terminology wrong, the preferred schematic design. Is that correct? All right, I got that one. So yes, the school committee is being brought in on this. It's a vital thing that the school committee, an elected body, charged with, making programmatic decisions for the district, be allowed to make a major programmatic decision for the district.
Sorry, I just want to say that we're going to extend the questions time because we started late, so we're going to have time for questions until 7:30.
Quick clarification. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you for that answer. As a ex officio member of the school committee, I'm still not clear after the discussion last night, a conversation today, and your answer right now, what the school committee is being asked to vote on. It sounds like you're telling that you're answering this question by saying the school committee is being asked to vote on a smaller building or a larger building, but every other piece of communication that I've seen suggests that that's not the case. That decision has been made and baked and decided long ago. So if I don't know what I'm supposed to vote on in either a week or 2 weeks, I can't imagine my constituents are expected to understand that.
Like I said a moment ago, the upcoming votes are on the educational program and I think it's called the space summary. Those are the two pieces. The space summary was presented last night. Educational program presented next Monday. Those are the two upcoming votes. In June is what we're anticipating would be a vote on the preferred schematic design. That will be, you saw examples of that earlier. That will be the vote on which design.
All of which for the larger building.
Correct.
So could you please answer the yes or no question? Is the school committee being asked to vote on the smaller building or the larger building?
Versus the school.
I think that's,
the school committee is being asked to vote on the exact.
Following the process to close the brown. So they need to follow the process. If this is indeed what's going to happen, the process has steps. There is gap analysis. There is redistricting. There is a whole list of things. I'm not on the school committee, but I know there's a process, and these are some of the things. When is this happening? It seems like we are wrapping the decision about the building and the closure of the brown and combining of the schools all in one. We keep talking about buildings, but we are talking about the school as well in decision closing.
The reason the school committee is being asked to weigh in now is because previously, under the plan laid out, there would have been nothing brought to the school committee. This would have just been submitted, and that would have put a risk of a school committee not being in agreement with the plan. It's crucial the school committee be on board with the plan that's submitted. That's why we're doing it this way.
So I still don't understand when are we doing the process of deciding whether to close the brown? Not the building, which we're building, but specifically closure of the school in the district. When is this process happening so I can engage with my elected officials that have spoke here, thank you, Lance, and the school committee members in my Ward 6, which would be without a school.
So there are various different milestones that I think you need to keep in mind. One, the earliest that the school committee could deliberate and decide on a schedule for closing the Brown isn't until after the debt exclusion for the new building has passed. Because until such time as there is a new building to move them into, the students at the Brown, the school committee can't contemplate closing that because it has to stay open. That's the earliest that the school committee could start discussing what a closure of Willow Ave building looks like in terms of educational programming and redrawing the proximity borders and well, what geographic areas would have preference for which building. They can't even start to discuss what the contours of that look like until we know that we're committing the money to build the building, the new building. That said, that's the earliest. It is also possible that the school committee may wait until we're further along in the design and construction process. Also keeping in mind that there are other things that we need to do with the other buildings. So far I'm giving you a very big non-answer. That said, a preferred schematic design that goes to the state saying that we are intending to build a building for 900 students, the state has an expectation that they're not wasting their money on a larger building. So it is an inherent admission that at some point in the future, the school committee will phase out the Willow Ave building as it currently operates for K-5. There's a whole lot more that the school committee needs to go in, but they have a lot of time to do that, and it's irresponsible for them to start having a lot of those discussions before we know that a new building is being funded. So it is impossible for the school committee to give you clarity on this. It's impossible for the mayor to give clarity on this. We can only sort of outline the contours of when the milestones are that we fill in the unknowns so that the school committee can then make those decisions. Now that said, again, I want to reiterate, getting behind the larger school does mean an admission to the state that there is an intent to eventually close the Willow Ave building.
I have no stake in the Willow Ave building because my children are now all grown. But and I'm late to this conversation, but it seems to me that part of this assessments that have gone on already included whether or not to preserve parts of the existing Sycamore Street school, whether any of that was structurally sound, what were the conditions of the Brown school, and what would it take to keep it operative. What does it mean to not have any, to have a limited outdoor space? None of that seems to be, I think all of that has been in conversations that I haven't been part of, but that seem to be missing from this discussion right now, that I assume have been, evaluated and debated as part of this.
So as part of the MSBA process, the scope of options that are being looked at are everything from just a repair of the existing school, which is now abandoned, which means no programmatic improvements or additions whatsoever, as well as an addition renovation option, which has been developed. These are discussed at the Public School Building Committee meetings, and tonight's conversation was a little more focused. But that those options are explored, as well as certainly a number of enrollment options at 690, as well as options on an alternative site, which was the Trum Field site, which again, hearing community feedback that some of these are not the focus. We focused a little bit more of the presentation tonight. But that is the range of options that are being explored. I hope that answers some of the question.
Hi, I'm Allison Jacolis. I'm a parent of a kid at the Brown. I want to be sure that I understand the implications. It sounds like from what you guys have said about the process, it actually isn't the role of school committee to decide whether or not the Brown closes, but only to decide how the city can best deal with the repercussions of that. Is that accurate?
I would say the exact opposite. Only the school committee can make that decision to close a building. It's a programmatic decision. That is one of the powers of a school committee.
Okay. Will the school committee have a meaningful option that does not involve closing the Brown to choose among?
That's what we're looking to do right now, is involve the school committee from the earliest stage of decisions that are being made and sent to the MSBA.
Thank you.
Yep.
Can I request that while we have the architects here, that we focus on questions that are relevant to the architecture, and that programmatic decisions can be directed to elected officials at a different time?
Are you giving me the mic now?
Yes.
Oh, thank you. So I have a question about the City Hall Annex building that is on these plans as possible outdoor space. Can we get a commitment from the city that they are going to, in fact, give that space to the school building project and possibly change the traffic flow on Thurston?
I can't speak to the traffic flow on Thurston. That's going to require some talk with the neighbor. I will say, the plan, so there's a larger plan, the 1895 building that stands over there by City Hall. That needs to be renovated. We have to move City Hall staff in there, renovate City Hall. At that point, we can centralize staff on Central Hill, which will allow us to close annexes like the Evergreen Ave annex. And yes, the plan is to make that ideal, part of the schoolyard. I know that from talking to my colleagues on the school committee, there's a lot of excitement about adding open space to the school there.
I just want to make this a little bit more public because I asked it before, but I noticed the district has spent a lot of time thinking about inclusion and an inclusion model. And so I'm wondering, when I see the schematic for like first grade wings, like I wasn't noticing like where like inclusion could happen or a co-model. So I was told that that actually would happen later on. Is this correct? So I just want to kind of say it more publicly, like this decision, and thinking about how can we do more an inclusion model from a design perspective. Could you speak to that?
Bob and I will tag team this. As I mentioned earlier, when you asked the question, these are test fits. These are basically taking the bigger space template that the mayor mentioned earlier that was presented last night to the school committee, making sure we have all the appropriate space. They're not necessarily identified and organized yet, and that includes distributed special ed classrooms. It includes spaces for paras and for specialists. It also includes inclusion spaces that will be carved out, and we've had a few discussions about the best way to do that, and we're still continuing those conversations at the educational leadership level. The best way to provide the space that is needed to offer every student what they need within their own space, or throughout the building on a larger scale. So it will be in there. The space is allocated. It hasn't been carved out yet.
This is just a follow-up. And then can we get a commitment that like meetings like this will happen so that teachers and educators and parents and community members can also have some say?
100%. What we do are focus group meetings, and there'll be many of them, typically 4 rounds throughout the design process. And what we do is we offer the opportunity for educators, for school committee, there will be different public meetings that will happen. These are typically within the school, but we ask that students come, that specialists come, and we start big picture in the earliest, and then we dive literally into room layouts and furniture as the rounds go on and the design gets deeper into decision making. So 100%, we want to hear from everyone. That's our goal, and we typically do 3 to 4 rounds, and we often go back to talk about spaces that maybe didn't hit the mark originally and have follow-ups. So there will be lots of space to have those conversations, and that's part of what we love about designing the building.
Can you just piggyback on that for a second? You mentioned, can we make sure that we have different instances in which we can gather more feedback? This educational program was due on Monday, but given the fact that we came from a visioning session, we collected some information from principals. I was not ready to commit to a visioning plan that was going to be submitted. That is the lens under which MSBA is going to look at this. It's not a final document, by the way. It's going to have changes, but I felt that the feedback from different constituent groups needed to be part of that. And this idea of clusters, even the idea of the early childhood versus middle grades, and or 3 to 4 to 6 and 7 to 8. Was a push that we have from some of the teams around making sure that early childhood experience is highlighted as well. We were actually very clear about elementary experience and middle school experience, but some of the feedback also helped us redefine that arc of the learning. So we are open to that. We will continue to be open. Again, we have to land on a document that needs to be approved by the end of this month, and so but our commitment is to continue to build on the feedback from the community. Yeah.
Just want to remind folks we have 3 minutes left of Q&A.
I have a question about one of the buildings that was shown, the building in Cambridge. Yeah, the Tobin Vessel. Is that building split up between 2 administrations, or is it just one? I just get concerned, I think a lot of us do, about the size of the school, with that it could be up to over 900 kids, and I'm wondering, like, do we know the success of how these schools are working? Has there been, anyone researching that? I mean, I know the Brown School has, there are issues, but there are also so many wonderful things. So I'm just, curious.
Can I speak to the size for a second? I think that we currently have, just for numbers' sake, we add Brown students and Winter Hill students, we're talking about 600 students, approximately. And so that is the number that we have as a baseline. That doesn't mean, that's in terms of the students, right? But configuration of the space will create a space that will be built to house the students in a way that it creates more flexibility. We currently have schools close to the 600, the Argenciano. We have close at 760 and change, the East, and then we have schools like this one that is at the 1,400 number. And so I think one of the things that you will see when you go into the Argenciano, I know that families often share with you that they have a feeling of belonging and that the space feels really well configured. This location would be actually intentionally designed to separate those experiences. Someone asked about the administration. I am committed to making sure that it only has one principal, and so that might change. Is that right? With the feedback that I get from all of you. But the idea of having one vision to hold the school together with different assistant principals or associate principals to manage the other clusters of grade level. So within any time, you won't have more than 320 students in each of the clusters. So that is scale of a small, I think, will be achieved depending on how we design the building and depending on how we administratively manage the space as well. So I just wanted to speak to that. I don't know if you wanted to say something about this building, but just wanted to give you that background.
If you'd like some feedback on how the Tobin School was designed, I can share that. Is that helpful? Okay. So there's actually, the Tobin is actually, has an city preschool in it. It's on the first floor underneath where it says upper school. That school has its own entry to the left side of the page there. That portion of the school runs completely separate. Okay. No worries, yeah.
We're gonna take one final question. You're on deck. So go ahead. We're gonna stick around if you guys wanna continue the conversation.
I was at the walkabout the other day, and I have two questions. One is, I know that you have a very strong commitment to sustainability and throughout the building, and I wondered if the way the building is built and whether it's timber or concrete or what it is yet in play. You don't need to answer that yet. And the other was, did you look at going to 6 stories in order to open more of the ground plane? Because we talked a lot about how much the community cares about and needs the open space around it. And I wondered whether there was a reason you could not go up another story.
Nothing is really set with the design. When you walk around the room, you'll see that we actually are still working similar to what the existing building has. We're building into the hill. So option 4 actually does have 6 levels. And what that does is it does allow us to open up more space out in the site. As we continue evolving the design, we can look at that. There's submissions we'll have to make to the planning board. We'll probably need to go through a special permit process when we start to look at the height of the building and how that works in the neighborhood, but still something that we'll continue to study.
So with that, we are closing our question section. So thanks everyone for coming. We're gonna stick around in case you wanna have one-on-one conversations with us. Feel free to visit our boards. They're open for folks to give feedback. And yeah, do you want to say something?
Yes, I just wanted to say that we will split up and post ourselves at the. It goes from my right, this side of the room. It starts with the schedule and the process. The next board has the organizational diagram, social, emotional, and neurodiversity and vision. Then there is a traffic board. I can't guarantee it'll be manned. And then we get into the options down there. We have Post-its and Sharpies. Slap a comment on that. We also have a QR code. I don't know if that's not the right QR code. There are QR codes on each board that will just bring you to a survey and says who you are, and then you can post a comment. You can post many comments, actually. So again, we're just trying to make it comfortable to gather more feedback. If it's something you even said tonight and you just want to reinforce it, please do that. Thank you.
Thank you all for coming. Have a great night.